What's going on, everybody? What's going on? I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that I saw that was kind of interesting, and I think it's really kind of a reflection of the times that we live in, in terms of things changing and people getting to the point where a lot of chickens are coming home to roost. A lot of financial chickens, particularly things that relate to living what we might call the rock star lifestyle. And there are a few rock stars that have been living the rock star lifestyle bigger than Ti and Tiny, who have been sort of hit with this crazy lawsuit. And I'm going to tell you guys about this lawsuit in 1 second. We're also going to have a special guest, Tiara KJ Williams, who's backstage, and she'll let me know when she's ready. But anyway, do me a favor, guys. Let me know if you can hear me. Give me a yes if you can hear me okay. Let me know I'm coming through all right. Let me know that you're Black and you're proud. And also, I want to say welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. But then again, you don't actually have to be Black. You just have to be intelligent and appreciate Black people, and also be pro-Black. So there are lots of people who are pro-Black who are not Black, and we love you too. But also, I am Black first, though, so don't forget that. And I hope that, and I'm never going to apologize for any of that. All right, so T.I. and Tiny right now have been hit with this lawsuit. Let me know if you guys heard about this. Basically, there's a woman that's claiming that they did some really I don't know. It was something that was just kind of weird. Something involving sticking your toe in somebody's hoo-ha. And this woman is suing right now, and it's kind of making news, and it's really interesting in light of what's going on with Diddy and everything else. And what I'm going to do is just kind of read this to you, and it's all over the news. I don't know what's going to come of this. I don't know if it's going to get settled or not. But basically, there's a woman who is making the accusation, and again, I want to reiterate that it's just an accusation that Ti and Tiny, they're talking about somebody getting drugged. They're talking about somebody Ti sticking his toe in somebody's shoe, and it's just kind of a mess. And Tiara, are you ready? Let me know if you're ready. Give me nod your head if you're ready. You ready? Okay, I'm gonna bring in Tiara KJ Williams, aka Miss Black Hollywood. So first off, Tiara, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, very well. I'm so glad you were able to join us today. And everybody say hi to Tiara. Tiara is a superstar. She's super smart, and she's very familiar with the Hollywood lifestyle. She's been in Hollywood for a long time, and she's one of my favorite actresses, singers, and producers, and directors, and she can kind of do it all. So, Tiara, I'm gonna read some of this lawsuit to you, and then I just want to get your natural reaction to this
Okay.
in terms of and sort of put it in reference to what you've seen living in LA for all these years. So here we go. It says here that an anonymous woman has filed an assault and battery complaint against rapper T.I. and his wife, Tiny Harris, claiming that the couple drugged her, then took her back to their hotel room and did the you know what with her. The word is RAPED. I'm trying not to say too many words that are going to get us in trouble on YouTube. After they had a meeting at a LA club in 2005, the woman filed her complaint against the pair as a Jane Doe in Los Angeles on Tuesday. So here we are. This is 19 years later. So she's filing the suit 19 years later. So let's jot that down, right? I think that is an issue I want to ask everybody about. That one, it was 19 years later. And then the second thing that stood out to me, and I'm literally the first paragraph is sparking a lot of thoughts here. So we can even start there. So first off, let's start with the first thing here. Um, 19 years later, how many of y'all give me a yes or no? Like, do you think that it is appropriate to be filing lawsuits 19 years later, especially over things that may or may not have occurred, right? Again, we don't know what the evidence is. We don't know what her proof is. I mean, if she got receipts, if she got a picture of the toe going where it shouldn't go. She got, I don't know. I don't know, right? They recorded it or something, then that's a different thing, right? But if there's no evidence, do y'all think 19 years is kind of, doesn't that make you at least ask a question like it's 2023, 24, it's not 2005. What do you think about that, Tiara?
Whew. Hello, everyone. I think that 19 years is interesting because, you know, I know in 2005 it was uncommon to come out with these type of allegations. Come out and say like, "Hey, this person raped me," and there be something done about it. I will say that this seems like the season. If you had any type of gripe, to come out and at least you'll be heard. So, it's interesting. People don't. come forward for things like this for different reasons. I'm just going to say that, like, especially women, they don't always think that they'll be believed, and or all the other things. So, and then some women just think it's a money grab. So you really don't know. It's so hard to decipher in this day and age, like what's really happening here.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I hope we can all agree that you should keep your toes to yourself, or keep your toes in your socks where they belong, and also, if you're into toes, make sure that toe is wearing a condom. But in all seriousness, though, I do think that there is, kind of this interesting thing. I mean, it's certainly become almost fashionable to come back with lawsuits, over things that happened way back in the past. And I think that where the general public, people who, those of us who keep our toes to ourselves are looking at this and kind of thinking, okay, what the hell were y'all, what was going on here? Like, what was all this stuff happening? How are we supposed to sort through this? Right. I think that one thing for sure that I've concluded, Tiara, is that when I hear these lawsuits and everyone says, well, this is about all women, this is about all people, anybody, this could happen to anybody. I don't believe that. I don't feel that way. I don't feel
Right.
like anybody is going to end up in a hotel room with Ti and Tiny. I don't think anybody is going to be involved in just that whole energy, that whole space,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
we know Ti and Tiny have been very public about living a really, you would say, an alternative lifestyle
Yeah.
that involves like a lot of crazy. I know a rapper that hung out with Ti one time, and he told me, and I met Tip in Ghana actually, and him and Tiny were very nice.
Mhm.
No one pulled their toes out or anything, and but I know I'm just with it with the toe jokes today. I guess I'm just
Go
it's
ahead.
because this could be a total disaster. Anyway, let me stop. Let me quit. I'm sorry. I should. This is not funny. Stop laughing. Stop laughing.
I'm
Stop it.
holding you. Hey, listen, I'm staying 10 toes down. I'm holding you down.
There we go. Okay. See, now you starting it. You need to quit. You need to quit. But but in all seriousness, though, one thing I remember the rapper telling me in particular was he said that he was in the studio and Tip comes in and he has this like parade of strippers. Like he literally brought, like 30 strippers from the club. This is what this rapper said to me, because he's like, yeah, we're excited to meet Tip, but then I'm meeting him in like this entourage of like women dressed however. And I feel like that I don't see how that's going to end well for him or for Tiny. I just don't. I feel like at some point one of these lawsuits could break through,
Yeah.
and the society we live in, people can sue you for like 20-30 million dollars,
Everything.
right? Which I think speaks to another question that is valid to ask, which is how much in financial damages should you get for something like that, right? Because there's some people who think you should get whatever you deserve. If you see me naked one time and I sue you, I should get $100 million. I think there was a lady at Fox Sports, Erin Andrews, who got, I want to say $50 million because somebody had a camera and they filmed her naked or something like that. By the way, if anybody wants to see me naked for money, I don't need 50 million. I'll take like 500,000. Not okay. Okay, I gotta have some self-respect. Make it 2,000. No, but in all seriousness, though, that's what we're getting. So what? How do you decide what the penalty should be if it was the case that something did happen that involved a toe and somebody feeling violated?
Well, yeah, that's a great question, right? We got to consider what is it, the emotional damage that was done, the pain and suffering they've been experiencing since 2005, um, who they're suing, all of the things. But for someone who has really gone through a situation like that they didn't pull themselves in. Let's say they were walking by a hotel and Tiny said, "Hey, you, come here. I want to talk to you." I don't know. They just kind of like
Mm-hmm.
gagged her and threw a bag over her head and traumatized her and took her upstairs and then raped her. And then, that's a different situation, right? But if you was like, you knew what they were down with and then you somehow ended up back in a hotel and a toe was put somewhere where you didn't want it, and then you wanted to seek revenge later, that's just a different conversation. So to answer your question, I have no idea how they do that with the court of law, but for someone that's really gone through something and is really traumatized, I feel like they deserve what they deserve.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, it is one of these things where obviously, again, I think that even as we ask these questions that are hard questions, I think we all agree. Everybody give me a yes if you agree that you should keep your toes to yourself. Like that's kind of, or keep your whatever to yourself, your toes, your fingers, like all extremities, right? So if something like that did occur, obviously that's not cool. And then another thing that's interesting here, this is where I think that they not only has toxic hip hop, really led to a type of destruction for the black community. I mean, think about this now, y'all. You got little 4-year-olds out here rapping "Sexy Red." And if there was ever an indicator of the maximum likelihood that your daughter gonna end up on the pole, it is have her rapping "Sexy Red" at the age in kindergarten, right before she's learned her ABCs. Like, I mean, that's crazy, right? So
That's
so
crazy.
toxic hip hop has harmed our children, harmed our community, little boys growing up wanting to be thugs and dope dealers and all these things that are going to put them in the penitentiary. I mean, it's really designed for slavery. We know this, right? But also, what's interesting is hip hop isn't just designed for the self destruction of our community. It's designed for the self destruction of the rappers too. Because I said this 20 years ago, that if you had the things like the Me Too movement and all that, and people go back and do like an inventory of like all the stuff that was going on. And when you were living the rock star lifestyle, when you felt like anything goes, and you felt like you could get away with anything, when they finally come back and account for that, it's going to be hell to pay. Like they're gonna. I always felt that with some of the artists, they're gonna do a Bill Cosby on them. Because Cosby, think about this. Cosby went through the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, living the way however he was living. It wasn't until the 2000s, when he's an old man, that people start going back and saying, "Well, wait a minute, what did you do in 1972?" And it's funny because you think you got away with it, right? You think that, oh well, it's now the 90s and that was 25 years ago, nobody's going to care. Well, I kind of feel like the rules kind of change, and so right now the rules are changing. And I think with hip hop, when you go and you just hear people like Jaguar Wright and other people just run around just telling all these crazy stories, it makes me wonder if some of the rappers just got sucked into a false reality that they could just live however they wanted and there would be no accountability for it. What do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, yes, I think we're seeing that with Diddy. I think we saw it with R. Kelly. It was interesting because it hit uh, Hollywood first, right? With the Me Too movement, it officially landed here, right? Um, and then I said, "Wow, if they do this for hip hop," I remember having a conversation like, I mean, hip hop might be going for them, and here we are. They're so I think that it's happening, and we're seeing it unfortunately in some of our favorite hip hop um artists that we have grown and kind of grew up with. It's kind of sad to see their demise. It's sad to see Diddy go through it. I mean, but then you hear the stories and you're like, wow, you were a piece of crap, really. Like you were
Mhm.
gross to people and doing all these things. But I think once you get money and you get power, and that power is a hell of a drug, you feel like you're never going. I can guarantee you, R. Kelly never thought he would be in jail. I can guarantee it.
Mm.
Like he just didn't see that coming. He thought
Well,
he
you
was
know
fine.
what? Well, by the way, everybody, I'm talking to Tiara KJ Williams, aka Miss Black Hollywood, and we're talking about this lawsuit involving Ti and Tiny, and this accusation that in 2005, a woman basically this woman is claiming that they tied her down and he put his toe inside her you know what. And I know it's weird to repeat it, but you got to give the facts, right? You got to give the information. And let me just read a little bit about what Tip and his wife have stated, what the attorney has stated anyway. And so the statement released to People, this is it being covered in People magazine, right? So you talk about undermining your ability to do mainstream stuff. I know that Tip and his wife, Tiny, have, they have a little bit of a mainstream appeal. I think I saw some video of him and his wife at like a Nickelodeon event, right? So he had some plans to kind of do the Ice Cube thing and transition into more family oriented content. And I don't know if that's going to be possible to go mainstream when People Magazine is writing articles kind of saying that you could be a predator, right? And I think that as a black man who's rapped about things that are not exactly family friendly throughout the years, it kind of creates a dilemma there. So here's what they stated in People Magazine. It says here that, quote, on the heels of positivity, negativity always rears its ugly head. This
Mm.
plaintiff has been threatening to file this lawsuit for 3 years. So she's been threatening for 3 years. For 3 years, we have emphatically and categorically denied these allegations. For 3 years, we have maintained our innocence and refused to pay these extortionate demands for things we didn't do. For 3 years, we've maintained the same position while the claims in this story have changed time and time again. Our position is clear. We are innocent of these fake claims. We will not be shaken down, and we look forward to our day in court. So it sounds like from T.I. and Tiny's perspective, which is quite valid, I think it should be heard as well.
Yeah.
They're saying that this could be a shakedown, right? They're saying that, look, this is just a person who's mad, who's threatening to do whatever, and I think that's valid, right? I mean, think about this, right? Ti is a rapper. Rappers have groupies, and groupies need money. And you've been engaging with the groupies for a long time. He's rapped about that. He's made no secret of that. So, what do you think is the probability that there are some groupies? Let's just call it for what it is, who are saying, okay, wait a minute, I can get a payday. I can get a payday by taking things that I may or may not have participated in willingly and simply positioning myself as a victim, even though I was a grown woman who made grown woman choices, and now I'm going to get paid for that. How do we address that without someone coming along and saying you're victim blaming? You're victim. I don't think that's victim blaming. Maybe it's groupie blaming, but I don't know if it's victim blaming. I mean, how do you sort that out and still be respectful?
Yeah, I know that a lot of women come to Hollywood, and I've said this before, Boyce, we've had conversations about it. A lot of people come to Hollywood wanting to have careers, and they want to be actresses, and they're beautiful women who are trained actresses. And so when you take a trained actress and you put her around celebrities, and she knows how to act. I'm not saying that she's acting, but I'm saying that she has the skills to produce tears and all of the things. So some of the women that have come forward are looking for a payday because maybe things haven't worked out in their favor. Maybe they don't, the jig is up, they can't. So they're getting creative. And I think this is a creative way. So I'm just going to say a lot of the women, I don't know what percentage, but I do think there's women in there that are exaggerating, that maybe did have a night or two, and then they're just taking this upon themselves to get some money. I do.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that society's kind of missing is, and you've been in Hollywood a long time. You're a veteran in that space, and so, but a young veteran, not like you're an old lady or nothing. You're not an old lady, but you have experience.
I'm young. Yeah, I was.
Right, there we go. You're young. You're a young vet, a young G. Anyway, as a person who's kind of seen all that, like you sort of seen the cases where somebody took advantage of their power and did something to someone that they should not have done. And then you've also seen situations where, women are smart. Women, are not, these innocent, silly little victims that can't think for themselves, right? We know this, right? We know women are powerful, women are intelligent, women are strategic, right? And I've seen that as well, right? I've seen how women approach men that they believe can do something for their career. Let's just say that. Yeah. And so in a way, it's almost like the hard part about all this is it seems like we haven't really made that discernment. Like people either going too far to the left or too far to the right. Right. Like when they look at Diddy and Cassie, you see the obvious, which is that Diddy clearly it sounded like he was a terrible boyfriend. Mm-hmm. It sounds like, Diddy was able to take advantage of his age gap with Cassie, and, he was more sophisticated and all that. But also, I always in my mind imagine a time machine. Like, what if I could go back in time and talk to Cassie as a 22-year-old who's been with Diddy for 3 years or something, and say, you got to get out of here. Like, why are you here? Why are you with this man? And she's taking all these smiling pictures and everything else. But there's this other side that's happening, right? This other reality that's happening. I don't think she would have listened to me. I think she would have said, mind your own damn business. I'm a grown ass woman. Do what I do what I want. Right. And so when that happens as a man, I say, okay, all right, you got this strong black woman. You do your thing. Right. But remember, there's a lot of young women who would have said, no, I don't want to be around that creep. I don't want to be in that relationship. I'm not willing to make that trade-off. Yeah. And so when she comes back and says she's a victim, it's really hard to kind of know how to process that. In fact, actually, after you respond to that, I want to tell you a real life story where I saw something that really actually happened. And then that relates to this, but I want to let you talk because I talk too much. Go ahead.
You don't talk too much. I think predators know who to approach. I think they know which women will fold. I think they know which women they can manipulate. I think they just know. A predator knows who they can predate. you know? And so, I say often, we talk about this all the time. I spent days, there's times I've spent with R. Kelly, but R. Kelly never asked to pee on me. There's a reason for that, right? Like there's a reason that he wasn't like, and he was clearly the OG, the one sprinkling all kind of amazing advice to me. Like that was it. Like it was like, hey man, if you're gonna do this, you gotta do that. I was like, yeah, okay. It was that kind of that's my experience with R. Kelly. He didn't pull it out, he didn't whip it out, nothing like that, right? So I think that men in those situations know which one, but there were women around who were like looking at him like he was a wizard, I don't know, like a magician, like he was gonna change their life. They were talented. A lot of the women could sing, a lot of the women could, and who knows what was happening with those women. Obviously we know now, but yeah, I think men know who to target. And those women, because Cassie was also going home to her mother, who was also seeing marks on her face and seeing that she was being abused, and still wasn't like, don't go back, I'm not gonna let you go back. She still let her go back to New York and be with Diddy. So there's something that has not been taught. There was something. I would never advise Lauren to go back to an abusive relationship and be like, well, that's just what she gonna do. Like, I ain't taught her well. So I just think it's that. It's her environment. People just allowing the abuse to happen. But,
Well, by the way, everybody, if you just came in, I'm talking to Tierra KJ Williams, aka Miss Black Hollywood, and we're talking about this major lawsuit filed by a Jane Doe against T.I. and his wife Tiny. And if y'all can do us a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, let me give you Tierra's Instagram social media handles. You can follow her at Miss Black Hollywood, MS Black Hollywood, Tierra KJ Williams. That's her name. So everybody go follow Tierra. And also, don't forget this podcast is on Spotify. So if you like a conversation among intelligent Black people, then go to Spotify, look up Boyce Watkins. And I have 2 podcasts on Spotify. One's called How to Make Money Without Working. The other one's called The Dr. Boyce Breakdown. So feel free to look up both and follow both. And I want to say thank you, guys, for following us on these platforms, because we just passed over 500 million views on YouTube. So I want to say thank you to everybody who's been part of this revolution. This is a revolution of Blackness and intelligence. And so we can't do this without you. So give me a thumbs up button, hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe, all that stuff. So let me tell you all a story about something that really happened to me one time that was really confusing to me as a 19-year-old kid. So when I was 19, I used to work in the dorm at the University of Kentucky, and I was the guy who sat at the front desk. So when people would come into the front door, they had to sign in, and I had to make sure everybody signed in. So I knew who was coming and who was going all the time. And so I was kind of like, they had the spook that sat by the door, just kind of like watching, and I'm seeing, like when I worked in the basketball players dorm, it was really interesting because I would see, girl 1 sign in at 6:00 and then leave at 7, girl 2 sign in at 7:30, leave at 8, girl 3 sign in at 9:30 and leave at 10:30, and I'm sitting there thinking, wow, these people that have, these athletes, they have a whole different lifestyle from what I had, because I was happy to have my one girlfriend, right? But these dudes just had the women were coming back and forth, a lot of the white girls or whatever. But anyway, there was one situation where there was a guy and he had a girlfriend, and I think she was I think we were like 19 or whatever, and she was 17, right? So technically it would have been considered underage, but when you're 19, 17, it's not like you're you ain't, Pee Wee Herman, right? You know what I mean? So anyway, so with that said, though, here's what was interesting, right? So this girl would come by to see this boy, and I could tell she was having trouble at home. And I think that's where, when you talk about men knowing who they can do whatever to, she was having trouble at home, because I saw the little girl arguing with her mama one day, and she would come to the dorm all the time to be with this boy, right? So you know how that is, right? You're troubled as a teenager, you fall into the arms of a man, and that becomes your place of peace and solace, right? But he also was beating her up, and it was real interesting. It was real weird. I always thought when a man is beating up on a woman, you would hear noises like, furniture being thrown around and shut up, whatever. I don't know. I'm not a woman beater, but I just this is what I would have imagined. It wasn't like that. It was the quietest beating I've ever seen. She walked in his dorm room, right? This is true story. And it was real quiet. And then she would come out, and I was right by their door, so I would have heard any noise. She would come out, and she'd have blood dripping from her face, right? And I was like, damn, like what's going on? And again, I'm a kid, right? I don't know nothing. I don't know. Literally, I'm 1/10 as smart as I am now in terms of understanding the world. So then the girl would go back into the dorm room, be in there for like an hour or two, and then she'd come out and she'd be bleeding some more. And there was just like this trail of blood going in and out of this room. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, what do I do? I don't like what the hell, man? Like what's happening inside this dorm room? So I honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. At 19, I didn't know what to do, so I didn't do anything. I just sat there and you're just like, okay, what the fuck, right? So here's what happened. Eventually, the police come by because they're investigating what happened with this girl. I think her mama might have called the cops, something like that. And nobody's snitching. Ain't no everybody's like, I ain't seen nothing. I don't know what's going on or whatever. But again, I'm the doorman, so I saw everything. I saw it all. And I'm just sitting there, I'm listening to the cop, and he's talking to him, and he's like, no, nothing, blah, blah. And he's talking to her, and she's like, no, nothing happened like that, right? So she's lying to the cops. And then eventually I just got tired of it. And I said, no, actually, here's what's happening. Because I thought about it. Here's what literally, you know what the trigger was, T? It was, I said, if that was my sister, would I want somebody to say something? And when the answer was yes, that was when I flipped. I was like, I don't care. I said, look, here's exactly what's going on. He's been beating her up every day. This is what was going on, right? So check this out. So the guy comes, so I saw them again, because I'm the doorman. I see everybody when they're signing in. So he signs in. And he's a little punk, one of those little punk ass type men that beats up on women. And he's like, well, I'm going through something, and like trying to explain it. I'm sitting there like, yeah, shut up, asshole, like whatever, right? And then I heard her. She walks behind him. She's still his girlfriend, right? And she's like, he need to mind his goddamn business, right? And I'm sitting there like, well, you're welcome. Fuck you too. Excuse my French. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna cuss anymore. But that's how I felt. Like, wait a minute, hold up. I'm defending you against this guy that had you bleeding, bleeding like Jesus, and you covered it all up in the blood. And I'm sitting here trying to support and defend you, and it made me feel like, well, what's the point? What's the point? Like if I say something and I've run into some of y'all, give me a yes if you've ever run into situations like this where somebody was in a dumbass relationship and where some dumbass stuff was happening, and you wanted to say something, you wanted to help, you wanted to intervene, and you were told to mind your own business, or you went, or you maybe you went and you talked to one of the people in the relationship. Like, I kid you not, I even have a friend right now who started dating this woman, and I know she's very toxic. I know she's like really like a horrible person to date, right? Because I just know her story better than he knows I know her story. But I was talking to my wife. I was like, should I say something? And we were like, I don't think so, because all that's going to happen is he going to go right back and tell her everything we said, and then they're going to be mad at us. So what do you do? How do you so at what point? Here's my question for you. As a man, I feel like I live in a world where I am held accountable for every damn thing I do. As a man in a relationship, I cannot sue anyone I've ever dated in the last X number of years and say she was emotionally abusive, I was manipulated. Oh, I do declare. And we don't, and here's the thing, we act like men don't go through pain too. We act like men don't go through stuff where you like your heart is broken, you did nothing wrong, you gave your best to somebody who didn't respect you at all, and who ripped your heart out of your body and took a shit on it, right? And we can't sue anybody because nobody will hear that at all, right? And so it's really hard sometimes to sit here and hear somebody, describe a decision that they made, where that people warned them about making, and for them to come back and say, I had no control, I have no responsibility. But yet at the same time, that same person, when everything good, when good things happen in their life, they take full responsibility for that. But when the bad things happen, it's like, no, it was his fault. It was that person's fault. It was somebody else's fault. How about it's your damn fault? How about you have responsibility? I mean, we live in a society where women are supposed to be equal to men? Like, or do we live in a society where women are basically children? I don't know. What do you think?
Oh,
That's my rant.
that is a lot. I think we should equally be held accountable for the things that we do. But as we know, there's just a different standard. It's a double standard that we live in, and unfortunately, that is the situation. I would like to, because what we hate to admit is that 9 times out of 10, the people that have abused, I don't know Diddy's situation, but I think I saw something about R. Kelly being abused by his older sister or something like that. Like something like that. So a lot of those people have been abusers. It's just coming from a really toxic cycle. But you said so many things. I'm trying to remember. In terms of saying if I would have said something or not about the girl, I definitely would have, because here's the thing. That boy could have killed her. Right. And then you don't want that. The next week you would have felt so much worse if that had happened, and you would have been standing around going like, I ain't seen nothing. He could have. So at least that was off of your consciousness. That's something you would have regretted. Right. Yeah, I think, when people tell you to mind your business, obviously she was in a dark place. I think, a lot of those women are technically living in a bit of a, when you're in something, you can't see out of it. Like you're living in a bubble and you really feel like this is the only thing. If I want to call it Stockholm, but if it's a Stockholm syndrome or something, but I feel like a lot of the women stay and they kind of like, make the situation work because they feel like they can't mentally, they're not strong. I don't know. I can't explain that, but I feel like there is a sickness there. I'm not saying that they're victims, that they're not victim. I mean, they are not people that can make their own decisions, but they are mentally suffering with something. Like it's almost like I want to call it a mental health illness, but that can be on either side, boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you make a great point, and I'm hearing every bit of it. And also, I want everybody to know I'm talking to Tiara KJ Williams, aka Miss Black Hollywood, and we're talking about this crazy lawsuit with T.I. and Tiny, and this allegation from 2005 where a lady claims that she's making some accusations about being drugged or having her drink spiked or something like that, and then being held down and somebody injecting their toe in somebody's hoo-ha, and that is it's TRC. That's very cruel for you to be laughing. That is not funny. That is not funny, girl. Stop laughing.
People have no shame. Like I don't know. Like 20 years ago, a lot of things that people just come out and say. Like when I hear Sexy Red talk, like 20 years ago, I'd have been so embarrassed. I'd be so embarrassed. Like this is something. If somebody stuck their toe in my hoo-ha, I don't think I would. I just wouldn't come out and say that. Like there's something about me that's still like, pride is. People don't care. People don't care.
You can't be walking around. You can't be having dignity. That's so old fashioned.
Man, people like clout is like clout is the only thing that matters. It's like clout is king. It doesn't matter what you are known for. It's like, yeah, I mean, T.I. and them stuck his toe in my vagina. That's how I'm known. Like it's so weird. Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just clout is so weird. It's such a weird.
I do agree. I mean, I think that we do live in a different world, right? And you were talking about Sexy Red and stuff like that. And here's one thing I'm gonna say that I think everybody should consider, or I hope you'll consider this. Give me a yes or no. Do you think that we should be concerned about the fact that do you think that with some of this music we're exposing kids to, that we're sexualizing them? Like, give me a yes or no. I kind of think that we are creating the problem and then getting mad, at the consequences. I don't think that anything good comes out of exposing young children to anything, from a lot of stuff, from Cardi B to Suki Hana to Sexy Red. I mean, think about how fast the race to the bottom has occurred. The race to the bottom in hip hop has developed faster than AI. And AI has been developing fast. Like literally, it's faster than AI. And what do I mean by that? Think about this. 2 years ago, it was all like, oh my God, Cardi B. Children listen to Cardi B. She's a stripper, talking about selling her vagina for a bag of Cheetos and a Gucci purse, right? And that was the thing. Now Cardi gets replaced by Suki Hana, and then we go into Sexy Red. Ain't nobody talking about Cardi no more. People are talking about Cardi like, oh, she's the conservative one.
Yes.
That's the classy one now. That in 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. People don't really talk about Cardi like that. They talk, because they went, it's like, I guess from Cardi to Megan to Suki to to Sexy Red, and the next one's coming out next. The next one's coming out soon, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna have somebody that comes along that puts Sexy Red to shame because we're just kind of in this weird, like, downward cycle. They
Yeah.
like it's almost like in San Francisco when they were describing what's happening in San Francisco and how the city's kind of crumbling. They call it a death loop, where literally one bad thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. Like in San Francisco, like there's a lot of crime and political dysfunction, and companies are leaving and all this, right? So San Francisco's kind of in a death loop. I feel like there's a certain part of our culture that is really in a death loop. Like again, if you've got a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, being exposed in music to sexual concepts that you and I did not know about until we were 25.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to end? How do you I mean, really, and I really think as black men and black women, those who care, I mean, maybe caring about the black community is old fashioned, right? But for those of you that care, I want you to really process that, because I think that it's a trap. It's a trap that we're set. The women get put in that trap to over sexualize the kids, and then we complain when they're sexual when they're 10, 12 years old or whatever. But then also for men like T.I., if I were T.I.'s friend and I never met Tip, I appreciate him though. We have our financial flashcards for kids, and someone told me that T.I. bought some of those flashcards for his children. So it tells me he loves his kids. He seems like he wants to be a good dad, and I honor and respect all of that. But I felt like there's a trap that's set for some of these rappers where on one hand, they'll be like, oh yeah, everything goes, just do whatever you want. Like they'll feed the beast in entertainment. They'll give you whatever whether it's drugs or women or whatever you want, they'll give you all that as long as you're going on stage and doing that juke dance and making that money for them. But then later on, it's kind of a setup, because now they've got all this evidence, all this stuff that they stockpile, right? So you get out of line. You let's say you flip and you say, I used to be a gangster rapper, now I want to be a community activist. They can be, oh no, Negro, we got tapes of you doing all kinds of stuff back in 2008 that you don't want your family to know about, right? And then that kind of shuts them down. So like Malcolm X used to say that the white man will sell you the liquor bottle and then he'll lock you up for being drunk. Yeah. And so I kind of feel like to some extent artists get sucked into that trap, and I do believe blackmail is a real thing. I think this really does happen in Hollywood. I think that's what the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing's all about. I'd like to get your take on some of that. I think that the whole Epstein operation was driven by, I believe that Epstein was a member of Israeli intelligence who understood something about money. Y'all know, now again, don't forget, I'm the money guy, right? He understood that everybody wants to be friends with a billionaire. Everybody wants to be down with the rich guy. Right. So so give me a yes or no in the chat. Seriously, everybody in here. Then Tiara, I want to get your take on this. If you met a nice billionaire who invited you to his private island to come party with other celebrities, how many of y'all would be tempted to go? Give me a yes. Let's just be honest. Be honest. How many of you would go? I'm going to raise my hand because I'd probably go. I remember hearing about Diddy's white party, and I knew people that would go to those parties. I'd be like, dang, I'd like to go too. That'd be kind of fun, just to have that experience. Right. And now what's going on now? Anybody who's gone to those parties is suspect, including Mr. TD Power Bottom Jakes. I use that term because that's what you said, and I'm not saying he's a power bottom. I'm saying that's what you said, so that's on you. Anyway,
I said that earlier this week. I didn't say that today. Go ahead.
Well, no, I meant to say he's a great pastor. How about that? Yes. And then which he is. But in all seriousness, though, you have anybody that's gone to a Diddy party is now suspect. Now anybody who's gone to Epstein Island is suspect. And I think that they did that on purpose, right? I think that blackmail is a real thing. I think that they said, okay, you know what? We know what you did or did. We know what you did and didn't do, right? Maybe some people went there and just enjoyed their time and left, but it don't matter. We know that the public isn't going to take time to figure out if you were one of the people that was doing something inappropriate. So we can ruin you, and here you are, you're a judge, you're a congressman, you're a celebrity that works with children or something, right? And that's going to have a huge economic cost to you. So I will say this, while I believe the traps are real, I will also say I have empathy for what Tip is saying in his statement, where he said, for 3 years, this lady pretty much held this over our head. For 3 years, she was threatening to sue. For 3 years, she was saying, if you don't give me money, I'm going to go public. Well, why does she do that? Well, she does that because she knows that an accusation alone is enough to cost you millions of dollars in opportunities.
Yeah.
right? And so people will do that. They'll hold that over your head. So it's tough because I think celebrities have to really move in a really careful way, really to the point where if I'm in his shoes, I don't. It's hard to trust anybody.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. You said a lot of things, and I want to respond to those. Okay, so let's go back to the Sexy Red and Sukihana, right? So, um, I used to. I don't know about other people in the chat, but I used to rap Lil Kim's. I know Lil Kim's whole album, like, and I was too young probably to be able to listen to it, but I knew that I knew it, but because there was like Lil Kim had her album, but we also had MC Light, we had
Mm,
Queen Latifah, we had
we did.
Eve, and then we had Trina, right? Or Trina came along, but we had like variety, we had diversity. Every artist wasn't giving us the same exact thing. For unfortunately, right now, Punani power is like the only thing that they feel like that we respond to for some odd reason. Everything is so sexually driven. It's like disgusting, right? It's just disgusting. So I wanted to say that to what you said. Like, unfortunately, we just don't have enough diversity. I think that if it was Sexy Red, like just the whole idea of like Suki being a food stamp hoe and a hose hoe and a ho ho, it's like it's way too much, right? It's like we're looking for ways to top one another in how disgusting and salacious and the wow factor, like, whoa, I can't believe she would say that about herself. It's like people, I don't know, just the way they branded them, and then they found a brand for it, right? I sent you that picture the other day of like, it was like the hood's ghettoest princess or something, and I was like, what? Like, that's the brand? Like, that's what we're doing? Okay, got it. Um, and unfortunately, and then moving forward to the rappers, the whole idea of the rappers, unfortunately, like when rappers are young, I remember when Tip first came out, a lot of them just want to get out the hood, right? They just rapping about what they know. It's about telling the stories and being authentic and telling where I came from, and the trap is where he came from. But that same Tip that we met is not the Tip that he is today, right? So unfortunately, rappers, like you were saying, I don't think rappers can evolve. They can't. I mean, at this point, like if you said that they're stockpiling all this information about them, about things they were doing earlier in their career, like songs they were making, references they were making. Tip don't necessarily make music like that anymore, where he's talking about being a pimp and a trap, and it's almost thinking about David Banner, right? That's obviously a friend of yours and somebody that I've met multiple times. Who now, when you even talk about his song "Like a Pimp," he'd be like, what? Like, that's not, I'm not on that. I'm on the, I'm socially conscious. I'm doing all these great things for the community. So unfortunately, like actors, rappers are sucked into telling their stories in the beginning. But I think once they start to evolve, it's like the past comes back. They still have that karma, like, kind of lingering in the past. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I feel like, and with Tip, it's interesting because you see him seeking to evolve and to grow.
Yeah.
I'm I don't again, I don't know Tip, but I do know David Banner and Killer Mike decently well.
Yeah.
We've known each other for years, and I know that they're friends with Tip, and I see what the great work they're doing down in Atlanta. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
they're really trying to present themselves as assets to the Black community, which they don't have to do that, right?
Yeah.
Tip does not have to be, working on these affordable housing projects and all this other stuff that he's doing,
Yeah.
and I admire that, right? I respect that immensely, and I think that what is also true at the same time is that there is a lifestyle that comes along with hip hop, and I feel like, to use another stupid pun with this story, Tip was 10 toes down with in this lifestyle, right? He
Yeah.
was all about, if you know his music, and I know his music pretty well. He's one of my favorite rappers. Like,
Yeah.
I could probably recite some of his songs. I'm not gonna do it, but I could. And because he was brilliant. He's a brilliant, like, I put him right up there with Tupac and everybody else in terms of
Yeah.
talent.
Agreed.
So now and the thing is that I think that what I really wish a lot of young people would really remember and understand from this is that, like, the things you do when you're young, they really come back to get you when you're older. You can't just live for today your whole life. You have to kind of live for the future a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that if Tip had been thinking, when he was 25, like, okay, one day I'm going to have kids and I'm going to have to explain some of this. Some of these rappers got daughters, and you've been talking crazy about somebody else's daughter for the last 15 years. That'll keep you up at night. That's why T.I. is checking his daughter's hymen and all that stuff. You remember that story, right? Like, I got to check out hymen because I'm afraid that I've cursed myself, that a younger version of me is going to get a hold of my most precious asset, which is my little girl. Men like him, I understand like that kind of. Tip's got this kind of old school Southern black man version of masculinity, just kind of takes pride in his family and protecting and providing that kind of energy. My father had that too, the little Napoleon complex, little short dude, feel like he can take over the world and kick anybody's ass. My dad was just like that, to be honest with you. He was just like Tip. And still is, even as an older man. And I think that for men like that, I mean, think about this, right? You a lot of them, maybe when they're younger, they're just womanizing, to get with as many ladies as possible, and then they have like a daughter, and then it's like, I'll kill you if you touch my daughter, and it becomes kind of like weird, like, I think, because you're like, man, if somebody is looking at my daughter the way I looked at somebody else's daughter, that's bad. So I think maybe the answer is to kind of pay it forward and kind of, maybe it sounds corny for me to say, like, I think men, just remember, when you're dealing with women, like, you are dealing with somebody's daughter. You might think that she's just a groupie. You might think that she's worthless. You might think she's a nobody, but she's not a nobody. Like, she's precious. Like, black women are precious. Women and girls are precious. Sex is powerful and valuable. Like, I don't know why that's so weird and old fashioned to think that way. You can still enjoy all the thrills that come with sexual gratification without being just sloppy and irresponsible with it. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that just comes back to haunt you in so many ways. So I kind of feel like with hip hop, what it unfortunately has done to the black male psyche, and again, this is hip hop's run by white people mostly. Black people, we don't finance this stuff, right? But I think what it really does, unfortunately, is it brings out the worst in us as men. Right. It kind of creates a false culture. The false culture that you get from the BET Awards and all that is to say that if you are a man who respects your body and respects your seed and respects women, you're seen as a simp. Like, what's wrong with you? You're simping right now. You trying to, or you're a big shot or whatever, and you can have a lot of women, and then you say, well, no, I actually want to commit to one woman. People are like, why would you do that? And I'm really happy. I'm grateful that you have men like, say, LeBron James, who kind of fight against that narrative to kind of say, nah, yeah, I know I'm King James. I know I can have whatever I want, but I'm gonna Savannah. I'm riding with Savannah. She rode with me. I love her. I respect her. And I think that that's the balance that comes with masculinity. And so I see hip hop as sort of being hyper masculine. And I think the hyper masculinity comes from a lack of true, meaningful male mentorship, where there's an older man who says, yeah, I know you're feeling this way or whatever, but that's not what manhood's all about, And so for a lot of these guys, people got to understand, a lot of these dudes never had a male role model in their house. They never had a man that really kind of settled them down and taught them about the world and taught them how to be strategic. They were just looking at rappers and athletes and imitating that bullshit that's going to have you out here looking crazy with 1,000 STDs, 10,000 babies mamas, broke as hell, struggling, in jail, falsely accused or maybe accurately accused. And then on top of that, when your life has fallen apart, like when people see raggedy ass 45, 50-year-old men, I want you to understand that they weren't always raggedy. They were in their 20s and you couldn't tell them nothing. Right. But then you see them in their 50s, they looking busted. They got 25-year drug addictions. They got, all kinds of dysfunction in their soul from the choices that they've made. Well, that's nothing but a compilation of very bad choices that have just all kind of come out. That's why DMX is not with us. That's why R. Kelly is in jail. When R. Kelly, it was so talented and so powerful. This man, if he had the right mindset, he could have damn near been in the White House.
Yeah.
Like, that's how blessed that man was in terms of talent and opportunity. But instead, he's sitting up in somebody's jail cell. So I just kind of want better for guys. I don't want to see this, right? So I kind of think as a community, we got to confront this culture and we got to have these conversations. So I probably sound preachy, and I know I rant and I ramble a little bit, and I don't mean to, but I just really want people to see what's going on here. Like, I think they want black men to destroy ourselves. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll let you get the last
That's
word.
that's so interesting because I had never. Well, I can't say I never considered, but being in a place where there cultivates so many artists. I know that a lot of artists and a lot of people looking for fame and fortune are broke, and a lot of them are broken. A lot of them are they want to be rich so they can be seen, and so that people will love them and they will validate them and give them what they didn't receive at home. Um,
Mm.
there's just a lot of broken people, and so when I think we're listening, you said something that sparked this thought, but when we're listening to those artists talk about drugs and getting money and getting vagina and getting all this stuff, it's like we just got to really think about that those people are likely broken, right? Like they're
Mhm.
not allowing people like you to have who are not broken to have these platforms to speak and teach, right? They're allowing the people that are broken and toxic to tell us things and to teach
Mm.
us things and teach our kids that. So I would just say, you know, we just have to be careful about what we allow in our spirits and in our homes and over our children. The beat is good, it sounds good, but music is the only thing that you literally don't have to do anything to allow it to enter your body. Like you don't need to do anything to suck up those things subconsciously. You don't have to do anything. Music just lives inside of you. So just be careful about what you're digesting and ingesting and taking in.
Well, you
Yeah.
know what? And you know what's really funny, T, is you said men who are not broken like me. I'm very broken actually. I was, first off, my father abandoned me when I was a baby, right? So I was raised without my real dad. But then second of all, I did endure a lot of abuse as a kid. I had very low self-esteem, growing up. It's really to the point where if I think too hard about my childhood, I start to get sad. I start to almost cry on the inside, right? So there was a lot of pain, a lot of stuff I went through that was very traumatic and terrible. And what I think helped a lot is and the difference is that if you make a conscious effort to it's okay to be broken, but you have to make a conscious effort to pull the pieces back together in a healthy way,
Mm,
right? Because even if you're broken, you have an obligation. There's a point where you're not the kid anymore. You can't, self-pity doesn't help you. Nobody's going to come save you. Feeling sorry for yourself isn't going to get you anywhere. And people are looking to you. They need you. They need your protection. They need your guidance. They need your leadership. They need your love. So a lot of times I think that kids get hurt the most by parents, by broken parents who never took the time to heal, right? Who never sat there and said, okay, let me do some therapy. Let me learn about myself. Let me figure out, and I had a process. I went through a process
yeah.
of understanding myself and getting in touch with my emotions about who I am and looking at my self-perception and getting rid of that lack of self-confidence. I didn't, I had it's like I had confidence, but I didn't have like self-love, self-esteem. That would probably be
Yeah.
a better way to
Yeah.
describe, right? And kind of confronting that, right? And I studied that. Like I studied myself like the way you study, an animal or a rat in a lab. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, let's look at who Boyce is and how the world made him into who he is, and let's build a better Boyce. And that took a lot of time, it took a lot of meditation, thinking about things. I had to disconnect from the culture because the black men I grew up with were really fucked up people. A lot of them, like they just, I'm talking about the drugs, jail, and all the black. I did a count one time. All five of the black boys I hung out with every single weekend, every one of them ended up in a very bad place.
Yeah.
Alcoholics, drug addicts, prison. Every one of them. Not one single one of them, right? And so I had to at an early age kind of say, okay, this ain't what I want. This is not how I want my children to see me. This is not who I want to be in the world. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to be a drug addict. I don't want to have a bunch of babies mamas. I don't want to be struggling. So I had to confront each of those little issues and try to fix it, right? And I think that
Mm,
with hip hop, what's messed up about it, what pisses me off about it, is they don't try to fix nothing. They celebrate it. They say,
yeah.
okay, let's create more drug addicts, knowing how much pain drugs have caused the black community. Let's create more babies mamas. Let's spread more STDs. Let's be more financially irresponsible. And I think that when we do that, we're doing a disservice to ourselves and a disservice to our community and a disservice to our children. because a lot of these children, as much as we might want to bash a sexy red, which I have no problem doing some of that, to be honest, because some of that stuff is crazy. Remember, the apple don't fall far from the tree. There's no way you can convince me that sexy red has two healthy, functional parents. No way. There's no way.
That
Right? So
I
she's a broken little girl who's trying to make it through the world. But the problem is that this industry will feed the beast. They'll feed the demon. And
yeah
they'll say, "Oh, well, yeah, you're broken, you're dysfunctional, but that's okay. That's no, you just being black, girl. That's black culture, girl. That's what I tell. That's keep y'all. You
yeah
keep representing your culture. So the people like the Dr. Watkinses, they just hating. They just haters, right? That's what they do, right?
yeah
So they never get the help that they need, and next thing you know, when they're dead in jail or infected or whatever, it's like, oh, we'll just move to the next Negro. We'll just get some, Whitney Houston. Yeah, Whitney's dead, but so we got to find another singer for Clive Davis to make money from because Whitney ain't. We have to make money off her now as a dead artist. Well, maybe we make more money now, right?
yeah
Which is another interesting issue, right, with the industry. But still, it's kind of like we are just this disposable commodity. Like in the entertainment industry, black people are like toilet paper. They
yeah
literally wipe their asses with us and don't give a damn. Like you can't tell me that Whitney Houston, if she had gotten the proper help, would not be alive today. You
yeah
can't tell me that if R. Kelly hadn't gotten the proper intervention, he wouldn't be out of prison right now.
yeah
You can't tell me even if Tupac and Biggie had gotten some guidance and some mentorship from Louis Farrakhan or somebody that they respect, they would be alive. They'd be prospering. They'd be billionaires. They'd be running $1 billion company and employing thousands of black people. Instead, they just they're two dead Negroes. And that's what they want for us. And until we become conscious of that and start to fight against that, we're gonna always fall for the banana in the tailpipe.
I love that thought. And can I just say one last thing?
Please.
What you described, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I love you were first of all, thank you for being so transparent because that was amazing. But everything that you said that you had felt just made me immediately think of what kind of woman would be in a hotel room waiting with T.I. and Tiny, right? Like a broken woman, right? Whoever the woman, I don't even know her, right? Or we were talking about Cassie earlier, or all these women who put themselves in positions, and I was like, oh, just lacking esteem and lacking self-worth and all of those things. Because you said that they're not victims, right? And I agree with that. They're not. They just, that mental illness I was talking about is basically that brokenness without actually getting help, right? Like you just stay in horrible situations because, the girl that used to get beat up at your dorm room, she was just like super broken. So I don't know, it just came back around like a circle to me. I was like, oh yeah, that's what they are. They're not victims, but they definitely are not mentally sane. Completely.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. I'll tell you should tell this to your Hollywood friends. The black and the white ones too, actors and actresses. Every time I go to LA, I'm so impressed with the amount of discipline and talent and skill it takes to be a great actress or actor. Like
Yeah.
people don't understand. Like I was. Remember that shoot we did way back, like 10 years ago almost.
Yeah.
Where we were in that room and everybody, and I didn't know everybody had waited for me like all those
Yeah.
hours, and I got there and all these people were there and y'all had waited, and I appreciated that. And I felt bad. And I remember thinking to myself, this is so impressive. All these people are here. Nobody was getting paid because we didn't have no money. And they had just waited and they were so talented and so disciplined and just these super smart people and just the work it takes to memorize your lines and to stay in shape, eat right, and just all the work it's required. I really think that it's wasted a lot of times by chasing the false dream of Hollywood. I think that chasing other dreams in addition to that could be just as beneficial. Like I think that a really disciplined, talented actor or actress could be just as good as an entrepreneur as they are at acting and filmmaking and all that. And really the entrepreneur or the business owner actually has more power long term than the person who's like you look at Taraji and how great she is and how amazing she is. What if all that hard work she put into becoming an actress was also applied to her just being a business owner? Like she could have been another Oprah by now because she's that famous and she's that powerful. She's got that many connections, but instead she's 50 years old complaining about how much she gets paid. And I think that was kind of sad. It's kind of like I felt like she should be in a different place from that. I just didn't understand that. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like you're talking about somebody who has no choices, no options. Like, this is Taraji. Like, can you explain that to me, please? How is Taraji complaining about like almost like she's a Wendy's employee or something? Like, I didn't get it.
No, I think she is starting a conversation. Let's be clear. Taraji is not broke. She's not broke. She's just saying, I think this was how my interpretation. Let's just bring it to the light that there are women, white women in the industry that make, $500 million when I was paid $1 million for the same job. I think that's the conversation, right? Taraji did start other things outside of her acting. She has products. She has a whole hair care line. She has like skincare. I think they was doing something. She had a podcast. Like, I think she's definitely using her celebrity in other ways and making money from it, right? But I do think it's a conversation to be had. And the only way to really, for things to change, is to confront them. For powerful people in those positions to come through and say, hey, look, I'm not making all the money. I'm not making the money Meryl Streep is making. I think Viola Davis said that a couple years ago. Like, I'm on the same par with Meryl Streep, but I ain't getting Meryl Streep money. And so it was just, it's an interesting conversation. I think they should continue to keep having, because if you're only getting 1/10 of what you deserve in an industry that so freely gives, who was it? I forgot the lady's name, but there was a lady that was like, no, Octavia Spencer was basically saying that it was a white woman, the white actress, I can't think of her name right now, who came forward and said, no, if you're going to pay me this money, you better give Octavia her money, right? Came forward and said that. And that's how Octavia was paid more, because somebody, if you want to stand as an ally, the allies have to, they have to speak up.
They have to be allies.
They have to be allies, yeah. So Octavia Spencer in that situation had an ally, but just in general, I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. Nobody's saying poor me, literally, but they're saying like this industry is effed up and we need to figure it out.
Well, you know what? I think that's a good point, and I'm glad you clarified that for me. And I say, hey, whatever you got to do to get the money you deserve, I support that. I have no reason not to. I would also say, just as an economist that understands things like markets, if somebody's not giving you what you deserve, you go somewhere else. We know the origins of Hollywood. Hollywood was built by a community that wanted to empower itself. Yep. And they didn't build the community to empower us. They built it to empower themselves, right? So I would encourage all of us to understand the importance of institution building as a pathway to Black liberation. So I want to say thank you very much to Tiara KJ Williams, aka Miss Black Hollywood. I don't know if you have a website or something, but I'm gonna give everybody your Instagram, Miss Black Hollywood. Did you? Okay. And so everybody go follow Tiara at Miss Black Hollywood. That's MS Black Hollywood. Also, this podcast is on Spotify. So go look up my name on Spotify. You can follow us there. And also, if you'd like to get some things that help you economically, you can take a look at, for example, we have a training called How to Make Money Without Working and some other things we're doing in the Black Business School. Feel free to go to BoyceWatkins.com. And actually, I should let you guys know that tonight we're actually doing our Powernomics training. We do that for free for the whole community. So if you'd like to join us and also get free access to my live class, feel free to go to blackkeystogreatness.com because we want you to be great. We want you to succeed. And we've got a whole curriculum on Black excellence and also Black empowerment, Black wealth, Powernomics, all that stuff. You can share it with your whole family. It's totally free. And we're going to meet tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern to do our Powernomics training. So just go to blackkeystogreatness.com. So take care, everybody. God bless you. And good to see you. I see you in there, Dr. Vibe. And I hope you guys have a great night. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Bye.